Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. President Biden has gone for broke in the first year of his administration, but the Wall Street Journal says he's broke. Now what? Welcome to this episode of Ignition Time, everyone. Here's a headline of an article from the Wall Street Journal. Biden goes for broke. He's broke. Now what? He could still push for bipartisan solutions, but his divisive first year makes it much harder. Now, I'm going to share some comments from this article and I'll share my opinion as well. I want you to let me know whether you agree or disagree with the comments of this article and with my comments in the description section below. It's very clear, folks, that President Biden is very frustrated with Senator Joe Manchin, the conservative Democrat from West Virginia, as well as Senator Kristen Sinema. And both of these senators have essentially shelved the Biden agenda because the massive $2 trillion bill that President Biden wanted is simply not going to happen. So, what is the situation here? The situation here, folks, is, and I'm going to quote from the Wall Street Journal, in the past month, the president has been spurned by Ms. Sinema, rebuffed by Senator Joe Manchin, and perhaps most humiliating, snubbed by Stacey Abrams, whose principal political achievement is to have come in second in the 2018 election for Georgia governor. Ms. Abrams decided she had a scheduling conflict when the president was in her patch last week. So here's the problem as far as the Wall Street Journal is concerned about President Biden. He should do what he should have done a year ago. A little wisdom, some prudence, and a grasp of elementary congressional arithmetic might have guided him to make genuine progress for an exhausted and frustrated nation. Instead of trying to build even more improbable progressive utopias in the clouds on the vaporous platform of a 50-50 Senate, he could have started and could even now start doing some of the things that American people would actually like to see him do. He could take boring, practical measures to address real challenges, getting us past the pandemic, cooling inflation, addressing crime in cities and the crisis at the border, not the imaginary ones that fester in the revolutionary's mind. I'm going to continue quoting from the Wall Street Journal, and I want you to let me know in the comment section below whether you agree or disagree with this analysis from the Wall Street Journal. But it's going to be much harder now. A year ago, he had the political capital of a newly elected president with an approval rating that approached 60%. Having largely squandered that capital, what does he do to persuade vulnerable politicians in his own party, let alone anyone else, that they should support the goals of a president with 40% approval? So what is happening, folks, is that President Biden's political capital has now weakened. In fact, the Wall Street Journal continues, historians will have to figure out what exactly impelled Mr. Biden to go for broke and keep going until he was duly broke on the two main Democratic legislative plans of his first term. First, Build Back Better, and now the so-called Voting Rights Bill. If the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, we have more to worry about with the president's health than memory lapses and verbal stumbles. Pretty strong comments from the Wall Street Journal. Let me know whether you agree or disagree in the comment section below, because this is a pretty incredible assessment of President Biden's first year in office. In fact, the Wall Street Journal says that this was an opportunity for the president. The major crisis over the past year was an opportunity for the president to essentially establish his understanding of the nation, establish his leadership at a time of crisis. But the Wall Street Journal feels that this opportunity has largely been squandered. In fact, I'll quote from the Wall Street Journal. People who claim to know Mr. Biden say that he was convinced by the blandishments of obsequious advisors that he was on a historic mission of transformation. This is a fancy way of saying that President Biden was convinced that he was on his way to greatness, based on advisors who didn't know what they were talking about. Never let a crisis go to waste, they presumably whispered in the presidential year, displaying their unsettling and peculiarly left-wing penchant for exploiting misery rather than fixing it. And now, as you can expect from the conservative platform, the Wall Street Journal, they do appreciate what the Republicans have done, because that's what you can expect from the Wall Street Journal. And they actually appreciate what Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kristen Sinema have done. And so the Wall Street Journal ends with these interesting comments. Still, look on the bright side. Thanks to Republican solidarity and the efforts of the shrunken but still barely breathing sensible wing of the Democratic Party. Now, it's very clear that the Wall Street Journal is referring to Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kristen Sinema. A damaged country has avoided further unnecessary self-inflicted harm. The repudiation of the left's ambitions is a necessary and wholly welcome corrective that should help the US to recover its equilibrium in a turbulent time. And since the avoidance of calamity is the next best thing, and often an essential prelude to success, let's celebrate Mr. Biden's anniversary as a moment of real promise. Wow. The Wall Street Journal is basically saying, hey, thanks to the Republicans getting together and opposing what Biden stands for, and thanks to Senator Joe Manchin, Senator Kristen Sinema, we avoided the situation from getting worse. We avoided a larger, as far as the Republicans are concerned, unnecessary stimulus. We are avoiding more inflation, and we are avoiding further calamity, because you know and I know we've had enough calamity over the past few years. So that's where things stand, everyone. Do you agree with this extremely harsh assessment of President Biden's first year in office? Do you feel President Biden could have and should have done more? A lot of people believe that with Omicron surging, there was enough time to ramp up testing, to make sure free tests were available to Americans, and we were caught off guard with the resurgence of Omicron. A lot of people believe that the administration, the White House, could have and should have done more to prepare the nation for the Omicron surge. Let me know whether you agree or disagree with this in the comment section below. Overall, folks, the way things stand right now is that the country is struggling to get back on its feet. It's very clear that President Biden's agenda is stalled because of the two senators that I mentioned. And it's very clear that President Biden's approval ratings are on the way down. In fact, the Wall Street Journal specifically said the avoidance of calamity is an essential prelude to success. So what the Wall Street Journal is implying is that hopefully better days are ahead, because calmer heads should prevail. We don't need some sort of a progressive or revolutionary utopia. Again, I'm quoting from the Wall Street Journal, and what we need is simple, boring, common sense leadership that should allow us to get back to life as we knew it before the pandemic. Because you know and I know that life was good before the pandemic, but the pandemic pretty much changed the nature of work in America. It changed our perception of the government. It changed the way we view unemployment. And I have had the fortune, the honor, the privilege to guide you through that journey, and I'll continue to do that. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Dr. Nitin Chhoda. This right here is a little bit of information about me. Check out my video. If you're not a subscriber yet, I would really appreciate it if you take a second of your time to click the subscribe button. Also enable notifications so you get notified of future updates that are important to the country, the economy, as well as our money. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.